This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Bros and heroes. Gonna tell you about bros and heroes. Gonna tell you about
comic books, costumes, facts,
Boots!
and other stuff.
In this week's issue, Bosco the Bear presents more romance comics.
Welcome into Bros, Foes, and Heroes. I'm Zach, joined as always by the, I can't think of a word. I'm trying to think of something romantic that starts with M.
Mushy.
The
Mushy.
the mushy one,
I'm
Mr.
the mushy
Mike.
one. That's it. That's
There you
what,
go.
That's what it says in my yearbook. Most likely
most
to be
mushy?
mushy.
Last week you were out of town, so we ran a rerun. And we looked back or played an old episode of some romance comics we had looked at. Romance comics, just kind of a brief, backup. It's something that was created by, at least the genre, by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, the same duo.
Joe Simon.
And Jack Kirby, the same duo who created Captain America. They eventually. Comics were in a weird time and they were kind of suffering and they needed new things out there, and they came up with the idea of romance comics. Now, the problem with a lot of this stuff and media in general that I always find funny is comics, especially in the time that we're covering now, because the stories we look at, you threw your pen down in
I know,
anger.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Yeah, as I was throwing it, I thought, oh, crap, it's going to make a noise.
But where the stories we're covering today are from the 50s and 60s. And so comic books at that time is a very male-dominated industry.
Yeah.
And it's always so funny to me to see, like, these middle-aged men try to write for these women in some of these.
Yeah.
But just the stories themselves are
They
ridiculous.
think this is how it's supposed to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then just because there's so many, when romance comics debuted, they got a little bit of, I guess, popularity. I don't necessarily believe they got super popular.
No.
But there was a time where at least it warranted other people to be like, hey, we need to make more.
They were selling them.
So there is an onslaught in the 60s of just all these romance comics. And I've gone through in previous times, kind of like the rerun we ran last week, and found some of the more ridiculous ones from that time to cover. And that is what we're doing in honor of Valentine's Day this week.
Valentine's. It's Find Your Person month.
The whole month?
Yeah.
I just did
It's your whole month.
It's going to be weird then, because next week we're not talking about anything sweet and loving. Okay. We're going back to issue 3 of Beneath the Trees Where No One Sees.
We gave them 2 love episodes. What else?
We can murder now.
That's right. That's
2 loves equal 1 murder, in case you're trying to.
That's just simple math.
It feels like we've turned into a true crime podcast
Court
now.
math.
Math.
Yeah,
Dude.
This is.
What if we did just like a comic book
foes, and bruises?
Well, in that case, it sounds like we would just have to find cases where like nobody got super hurt. It's just
it sounds like just somebody got beat up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But back to
this podcast is all about bar fights. Let me describe a bar
Bros,
fight to
foes, and bar fights wouldn't be bad.
That's really not bad, honestly.
No, it's not. But
come in and tell your best bar fight story.
That we would get some interesting characters.
We would get some interesting characters.
But we have romance comics.
None like Bosco, though.
None like Bosco, who is going to kick off our first story here.
Well, shit, maybe we would, though, because we're literally across the highway from
a lot of...
from a university that has bears in a pit over there.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Multiple
bears.
So we could have granted, and
bears.
Here's the thing too. You look that way, we're honestly miles away the other direction from a zoo.
Yeah.
So there are bears everywhere around
you never know. You look up and there might be a bear in this office.
Bears
at some
beats
point.
Battlestar Galactica.
Bear beats Battlestar Galactica. You know they're talking about rebooting Battlestar.
Oh, really? I thought you were going to talk about The Office. I was about to say we've talked about this
but
before.
But it's Sam, not Ismail. Yeah, the guy who did Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
It's him, which I think I would trust him with that.
Wait, are you talking about the actor? Are you talking about Sam Raimi? Not
No.
Sam Raimi's the director. You're talking about Rami Malek.
No, I'm talking.
The guy who did. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would trust him with that because he's very good at like the intricate. God, why
I
did
don't
that
think
give me a
so.
problem? The intricate details, of like coding and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And so I think he would be very technical
No,
about
that would
it,
be
which would be very cool.
interesting to see.
Anyway, all
All
right,
right, back to love.
back to love.
What I was saying, I was just teasing next week. Beneath the trees where no
Oh,
one sees
yeah.
issue 3. Which I read yesterday, and it is really good.
Good.
So let's get into our first story here, which is Bosco Plays Matchmaker, which is
Oh,
from
sweet.
February of 1960. Confessions of the Lovelorn, number 111. So by 1960, there were already 111 issues of this.
Oh boy.
I can only assume that if it's coming out monthly, my goodness, it's been around for a bit. Or anyway,
Maybe it comes out like twice a week. Who knows?
that's true. We don't know how often they're putting them up, but
Now, the subtitle on this says, "Love can come to a boy and a girl in many ways, but none as astounding as when Bosco plays matchmaker."
and spoiler alert, because it's right there, we see
Bosco.
Bosco's a bear.
Bosco's a bird.
That obviously, I guess, would make reference of why we were,
Yeah,
understand of why we were
she's on
referencing
the other
bears
side of the
earlier.
cage, and she's chucking her
Wedding bouquet
over, and the bear's going to catch it. And the bear looks very happy about catching it.
He is. So what
Oh, sweet.
we find out is that our setting is the Bronx Zoo, and that it is one of the largest of zoos, according to this in 1960.
Okay.
But also, it's a place that many people visit. It says
I
the
love
Bronx is one of the largest.
I love these facts. The Bronx is one of the largest, and many people visit it. Great, thanks.
But it tells you
Numbers, maybe? I don't know.
Well, my favorite part is it shows like a couple there, or a father and daughter, and they're greeting
come
Bosco, and the little girl's like throwing food at Bosco.
That's a bad idea.
It is, but this is the 60s. They didn't know better.
Sure,
So they were like just throwing food at bears.
That girl
at
was
the zoo.
eating.
And she's like, oh, he's so cute and stuff like that. And here's what I love.
This is so stupid.
It is. Here's what I love.
I'm sorry,
It
I read
says,
ahead a little bit.
See,
Yeah.
that was the one problem.
I-
I love to share these with Mike so that he can like see the
I
pictures
get
as
it.
we read along, but he always
Yeah.
reads ahead and spoils some of the fun. But so we see a panel of like just people looking in at Bosco, and it's kind of shows the back of this bear standing there looking out at them. And our caption reads, Bosco couldn't talk, of course, but did you ever wonder what he might be thinking? And it shows a thought bubble over Bosco, and it just says, nice enough crowd, but wait until May. That's my favorite. Love that May.
Love that May.
Love that May. Now, why does
Like-
Bosco love May? Oh,
Well, because he knows what the hell a calendar is, number one.
Uh-huh.
And he knows that months exist.
he can tell. Well, here's the thing. He does not have a calendar. Like it's
Yeah.
the bars all the way around.
It's
so
just
there's
in
like
his
nothing
head.
hung. And he's able to just to be like,
Uh-huh.
I sense May. It is now May.
Why May?
Yes, he loved May. Because that was the season of lovers.
Mm.
And if there was one thing that Bosco loved, it was lovers.
Well, as someone whose birthday is in May, I got to say that whatever 9 months subtracted from May, that was my parents' lovers month.
Like
Yeah, say,
September-ish,
something like that,
October-ish.
I guess. I don't know.
You're a Halloween baby. That explains the devil
Conceived-
soup.
I was conceived
So-
in a lab.
Oh, man.
It was birthed in May.
We then are introduced to our two main characters of the story. There's this one girl who's just staring at Bosco by herself and goes, here, Bosco, I guess she has food. You're
Yeah.
the only one I get to talk to. And then she leaves, and a guy comes, and he talks to Bosco, and he goes, hey, fella, you don't talk, but who else is there for me, kind of essentially. So we get two lonely people whose only friend in town is the Bronx Zoo Bear.
So I want to. Can I point one thing out?
Yeah.
When you look at this cage, that's a problem. Because like from her waist down, it's like it's like a regular fence.
I didn't notice
like
this till now, but yeah.
But at the top, where they are sticking their hands through and throwing things at this bear,
It looks
it
wide.
is very wide.
It looks wide enough for her to squeeze her whole body through
They could
easily.
both be drugged through there real
Easily.
quick
Oh, just wait.
and just ate.
Aiden. So we go back to our hotel, or to their apartments.
Our hotel.
Our hotel, to their
The
apartments.
bear goes home to his hotel.
And we meet our main female,
Squeeze.
our main squeeze. I couldn't talk. Mary Dennison.
Yeah.
would go back to her lonely room.
God Almighty!
And she
she's-
goes, "If
even the
only I
room is
knew."
lonely.
If only I knew. Someone in New York. And Pete Hayes.
Aren't there like a jillion people in New York?
There are, but Pete Hayes, who's also lonely, and he's like, if only I knew someone in New York. So neither of them know anybody in New York, and they're both lonely. We find out that Mary
I
works
love
at a
that part.
hosiery, and she hated it, and it
She
shows
works
her.
behind a hosiery counter.
Counter.
Who else? Wait, is that still a thing?
This is 1960. So
But I'm saying, can you still buy like fine hosiery at some store?
I don't know. I've never bought fine hosiery.
Well, you remember
I'm Lowe's, maybe.
you, you remember from good job. You remember from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation? He goes in and he buys panties from that girl at the thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he tells her, it's quite nipply outside,
Yeah,
that kind
yeah.
of. But that's how I envision. Like you go up to this thing, and this lady lays out these beautiful hosiery, and this
And you
was
like grab it.
this
like,
was made
rub it
from-
between your thing, and you're like, not
this
soft
is,
enough.
This
Ooh,
is made
that
from
one maybe.
Central American worms and
And you're like, I'm
whatever
gonna be
the hell
wearing
makes
these all day.
silk.
If
Yeah.
those things run, my day's
Oh.
over. Does it look
Oh.
like are they? Is there like tests like you like stretch to make?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how fine hosiery is bought. Again, unless I
Well,
go to Lowe's.
You're fixing to get a little
Yeah.
insight here.
But Mary says, "But madam, you can't return stockings that are so badly torn."
Uh-huh.
So apparently she works kind of at Walmart, and the woman says,
Walmart hosiery
"Young
counter.
lady, I'll have you fired for this. For what? For telling her like I'm not going to
Can't
take
return
back."
your nasty ass run hose. Come on, this lady looks like. Well, number one, she looks like she should be somewhere beating Annie into submission, right? And then and then she's returning this gross torn hose.
Oh, she is,
to
and
the
she's
store.
she even has the finger in her face.
Oh,
Like
she's
very
wagging
angry.
away.
And as for Pete, he hates his job too. I'm assuming he's a mechanic because he's underneath a car. But there's two things that kind of make me wonder. One is that all he says is another day, work, 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 which doesn't allude to anything.
Sure.
And the second thing is I have never seen anybody work on a car in a suit.
In a suit on one of those roll around things that you lay on. Also, I'd like to point out the exhaust on this car.
Oh, I just noticed that
It's
too.
an effing harmonica, is what
It's
it
not
is.
like an
It's just a
exhaust pipe.
harmonica.
Well, maybe that's the front.
car-
I don't know.
This
what
car
the-
goes down the street, goes the whole time.
I just love that. I like to think, looking at it, that he's checking something himself. He doesn't look like
Yeah.
somebody who would work on.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
Well, maybe it's one of those suits that they put out in the '60s that the astronauts wore. You just wipe everything right off.
maybe.
It's a plastic green suit.
Oh,
Sure.
and he doesn't have to wash it. It's just like one towel that's
Yeah,
his dirt towel.
yeah.
That,
When you buy it, it said made with new
thermal moon rocks. yeah.
thermal asbestos,
Thermal
strongest in the
asbestos.
country.
It'll give you multiple forms of cancer.
Well, they didn't know that.
Oh, damn. Yeah, you're right.
They just
But
knew they had a big growth on the back of their neck.
it
That's all.
shows that both of them, when they sleep at night, they dream of some mysterious woman or
Yeah.
man that they're lovelorn, right?
They are lovelorn.
So they go. It shows them that they both decide to go visit Bosco on Sunday because that's their Bosco
Well,
day.
hang on. The one in Mary's dream, they're kissing.
Yeah,
What are they doing in Pete's dream?
I think they're kissing.
They're like touching noses. Is that what they're doing? Like it's just so weird. Like he's staring straight ahead, and she's got her
I
head all
don't know.
cocked and
I
smacking
don't know
into him.
how to describe it. So
if I
I'm
could-
gonna do it the best I can for this podcast. Imagine like a face is looking straight ahead, right, or kind of to the side, and there's a woman's face blocking the front of it,
Yeah.
and it's angled like it should be kissed, but it's angled higher, so it looks
Uh-huh.
like she's chomping down on his nose.
It does kind of look like she's chewing on his nose. If I
But
could
he
only
loves
meet
that.
my dream
Well, that's-
woman, she would knock foreheads with me, and we would.
Mary's like, oh, I can't wait for my true
Yeah.
love's kiss.
Yeah.
And Pete's like, I can't wait to find some dame who'll bite my nose.
He's got. We're not here to shame anybody's kinks, but
oh,
try not to
man.
bite each other's nose.
Oh, man. I don't know. That art just threw me off on that.
Yeah.
So they go visit Bosco because Sunday's Bosco Day. And while they're both there, they kind of think to themselves, and Pete thinks, wow, she's got a nice face. I'd like to know her. That's what he thinks. that
She's got a nice face. I'd like to
face.
mash it.
So see, I don't feel bad for speaking for Pete that way because he seems like a guy who would say something like that then.
Pete's a goober.
Yeah. It's funny you say goober. Goober's going to come up, I'm pretty sure, in one of these stories too.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Mary looks at Pete and goes, "He looks nice."
Nice.
But
With an
you-
exclamation
Yeah,
mark.
but you just can't trust anybody in a big city. He could even be a criminal,
He could be a criminal.
which is very true.
But so could the bear.
Finally, Pete's like, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead and break the ice here."
Mhm.
And he goes, "I've been noticing you here, and I thought that maybe." And she's like, "Indeed. Well, it just so happens that I'm not interested in whatever you're interested in." Like, she just turns on him out of
What the-
nowhere, right?
And the bear now has two faces.
He does, because it's the
He's just
like
going
double
back and
take.
forth like
yeah.
a tennis
He's
match.
like,
Yeah.
"What?" Like that kind of thing.
I'm a bear.
And so Mary like storms off angry, leaving, and Pete's kind of confused. Here's the best part of this story, I think, is the name calling. She
Mhm.
says,
Mhm.
"And I'll thank you not to try to talk to me again, you masher."
You masher.
To which Pete replies with, "Don't worry, I won't, you pickle puss."
Pickle puss.
So there you go. That's a new one to call somebody.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Pickle puss.
Even with that fight, that drop down, just angry,
That was a rough
hate-filled
one.
fight,
Yeah.
Pete cannot stop thinking about Mary. There's just something about Mary, if you would.
I will say that he's at least taking his jacket off
To
now
work on
change
tires
a
this
tire.
time.
Yeah.
And then Mary's at the hosiery store, still thinking about Pete.
Wait, he says, darn it, why can't I get her out of my mind? She's just a sour-faced shrew, so why can't I forget her?
She's sour because she's a pickle puss.
She got pickle puss.
No, that's... And Mary, just moving. And Mary is thinking about Pete. And why does his face keep coming back to me? It isn't as if he was a good guy, just a flirt. She doesn't know.
Well, that's the thing. The poor guy.
I'm just saying, neither of them know. Like, she could be, honestly, like...
She could be the criminal.
She could have shown him who she is right there by yelling at him and leaving. And he's thinking, wow, she could be great. And she's still thinking, like...
He's a masher.
He could be just, he's been able... Like, neither of them know.
I
And
just, I'm not misogynistic in any way, but I do want to take
Is there a
Pete's-
but? See,
I
this
do-
is always... We talked
do
about
wanna-
this the other day.
I do want to take Pete's side on this, though.
Oh,
Because he literally just turns to the lady. He is in a full suit with a tie. He's not, he's not a crackhead. He's not.
that you know of.
Crackheads don't present themselves well. So he's just there.
We've
He's at
hung
the
out with
bear
different types of
cage. And he says, I've been noticing you here, miss. And I thought that maybe. And then she's like, get out of here, you masher. Well, shit. What's he supposed to do?
But at the same time, as she's leaving, he's not like, oh, it's a misunderstanding.
Mm.
He
Pickle
just
puss.
doubles down and
Well,
So I'm saying, like, it could have
Different
handled.
times.
It could have been handled. Anyway,
Just the way
so
they are.
That's
Mhm.
that's them.
I just go ahead, and I got an observation real quick. But go
Well,
ahead.
No. Go with your
No.
observation.
It's
Okay,
it's
okay.
about the next panel.
So we get to the next panel, and for some reason they still go to talk to Bosco because in a city as big as New York,
Well,
the
it's
only
Sunday.
person
It's
they
Bosco
go
Day.
it's Bosco Day. The only
Yeah.
person they have to talk to still is Bosco.
I just want to point out the way that Bosco is standing. Number one, he's a bear and he's standing. And number two, he has both hands like on his hips, like, why don't you just get along? You know?
He does. He's really torn up about it.
Good old Bosco.
And then he's sitting there and he's looking at it and he thinks to himself, though, the good old Bosco, that settles it. It's time for me to get busy. And what does that mean? He steals Mary's purse as Pete's leaving. Because Pete's like, if I don't get to talk to Bosco by
Yeah.
myself, I don't want to be
Yeah.
here. So Bosco has decided to take things into his own hands. And he's
Literally.
literally, as he is taking stolen Mary's purse. And he's going to, I guess, play Cupid, if you will.
I just love how he dumped everything on the ground and then
And
just
then
turned his
left.
back on
That's
her.
the thing.
He's
So
like, yeah, screw it.
he pulls the purse into
wanna
the
eat your
cage.
crap.
It falls everywhere, and then
Yeah.
he leaves it.
Yeah.
But you'll see, this is part of Bosco's trap.
Oh, I know. Bosco's a genius.
He is a genius.
Mhm.
So Mary's like, my month's pay. Her first thought, I've got to get it before Bosco comes back.
She has
He
an
might rip the money up.
She has an entire month's pay
In her purse.
just hanging around.
Where is she going? It's just her apartment in
I
the
don't
zoo.
know.
That's it.
The only person I know I could point at about this time who carried around a month's pay or more would be the chick from Psycho. You know, she took all that money and took off, and then she got killed in the Psycho hotel.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
kind of what it's like. Oh, I got all the money, and now the bear's stolen it.
But she does what any sane person does.
Take a shower.
Climbing the bars wasn't hard.
Oh,
I'll just
God.
climb right in.
And again, she
and
could have
ride
gone
out.
through them.
She could. They're big enough for it. But she climbs over and she thinks, I'm going to grab my purse and everything before Bosco gets back. And as she scoops it up, that's when Bosco leaps to try to attack her.
You ever seen Grizzly Man?
Yes,
The
but it's been
documentary?
a while.
Yeah, dude gets eaten.
He does, yeah.
Right? Even though he's like, yeah, this bear's not going to hurt me. That's the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't care how much of a matchmaker you think your bear is
You
playing.
don't F with bears.
Don't go in the cage.
You never mess with bears.
No.
Anyway.
I won't mess with any wild
even
animals, honestly.
Even Bosco, who is such a bear genius.
Good old Bosco.
Well, Bosco lunges at Mary, and Pete isn't far away and hears, and he's like, hang on, I'm coming. So what does Pete do? He doesn't get help. No, he decides to jump in himself.
Sure.
And he's like, now she's got her. He goes, how she got in here, I'll never know. As he climbed to get in himself.
I think it's about the way you got in there, buddy.
Yeah, that's a good idea, probably. And he tells her, run over there to those high rocks over there in the back. I'll deal with Bosco.
Don't tell me what to do, Masher.
It says Bosco lets them get away for the moment. And he's like, here, we'll have a better chance to hold up here.
Bosco just stands there and goes, grrr. That's it. He's a genius.
Well, and so, like, Pete's helping Mary to safety, and Bosco comes at him again, and Pete turns around and punches him in the nose.
Well.
Which, if anything, Mike, this is going to be a weird thing to interject here, but I'm going to add it. Do you remember a show on Spike? First of all, Spike TV.
I do remember Spike TV.
Back
That's where
in
the
day,
Man Show came on to begin with, right?
No, I think it was Comedy Central first.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, anyway. But they had a show called Mansers.
Mansers?
Mansers, right?
Okay.
Spike TV, in case you were curious, was a TV station that was made for...
Spike is short for misogynistic TV.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So, as a younger kid, I would watch, I say younger kid, kind of like late teens and stuff like that. There would be shows on there
6-8 months.
that we would watch that I would just find ridiculous because they were shows, even
Yeah.
at my age, but still,
Sure.
they're funny. One of them was Mansers. And it was like these stupidest questions that they would ask. And it'd be like, oh, how can you survive this? Or what is I don't know. I watched it a couple times, but one of the episodes I remember was like, what can you do to survive like a grizzly bear attack or something? It was really stupid. Mike's pulling it up right
I'm
now.
looking it up, yeah.
But I remember the guy in the grizzly bear show question is like, oh, you can punch it in the nose. And even at like, 17 years old, I was like, yeah, there's no way if I'm coming up against a bear, I'm punching it in the nose.
Do that.
But that is
says-
exactly what Pete does here.
Various stupid and some very interesting questions are answered by men. That's the entire premise. That's it.
It's not. What they would do is they like ask guys on the street, and then they would have like some half-baked sign. Like, it's not good TV.
Well, it starred.
It didn't star anybody. There wasn't a
It
host.
starred Ward Roberts.
Or maybe he was the voice for it.
Yeah, he was Ward Roberts.
Do you remember like that and like 1,000 ways
Actually, shit, he's been in a lot of stuff.
and like 1,000 ways to
Oh
die?
yeah. Honestly,
It was that kind of like it was all in that same kind of
when you
vein.
look it up, that's one of the references down at the bottom is 1,000 ways to
same.
die too.
But
yeah,
I-
the same kind of thing.
It is.
Yeah.
I had that brief branch off into just terrible television.
The other one
just
is
because he punches him in the
Paranormal
face.
Whacktivity. It's just a girl in a bikini in front of what looks like the paranormal movie thing. Hey, but it
was
also
highbrow
also
stuff.
you get Max Saves the World with a little dog.
Okay, one of them looks.
This
I'm afraid that poster is not what the movie's
It's the
about.
goofiest thing.
Okay, we have.
All right, go.
We have
Sorry,
derailed. Let's
sorry.
get back
Yeah,
to
Go for it.
Bosco and Mary and Pete. Pete punches Bosco
Welcome
the
to our
bear
Mansers
in the nose.
podcast.
It was a terrible, misogynistic, just awful show. And
Well, he punches the bear in the face, and then the bear runs away going,
How-
ooh, wow.
But then he
ooh,
goes,
wow.
how am I doing? Like, who's
To
he
himself.
talking to?
To
Yeah, like
himself.
he's like, oh, my acting's good. How am I doing? But nobody's there to like, who's he talking
How
to?
am I doing, Bear Jesus? Sorry.
Here's what's weird then. So the zookeeper comes by and he's like, in this cage, you'll
Why
see
is he
something.
dressed like an ice cream man?
I don't know.
He's in all white.
He is. He's like, in this, you'll see something very unusual. It sure is unusual for a bear cage because Mary and Pete are making out. They did not crawl out. No. Of the bear exhibit. Pete just punches Bosco in the nose. The bear runs away and they start making out in the bear exhibit.
It does not get better than this last panel.
Then
I swear to God, that is the greatest panel you have ever shown me in a comic book.
oh, there's a reason I included it.
There, jeez.
Then it says at the very end, the very last panel of this story, That's all, reader, except that one late celebrant still swears to what he saw. And it's Bosco is shaking hands literally with Cupid
Uh-huh.
while the drunk behind him says, I'm going to swear off. I know when I've had too much.
So this, what's he a celebrant of? That it's the month of May? I mean, because let's think about this for a second. If it's May, so generally when you see guys in a top hat and a tuxedo who's very drunk, it's New Year's, right? This is halfway through the freaking year. Has this guy been drunk the entire time?
Here's the thing, too. When you see Cupid, you think of February. You think
that's
of
true, too.
Valentine's Day. So when they say late celebrants, I'm thinking both of them, this New Year's guy and Cupid, both hung around till May because they were like, Bosco's got one for us, guys.
Just sitting there waiting.
Just waiting.
Wow. Yeah, that's it. Oh, see, but I didn't see the next one you got here. So
Mike, I made sure that here's the thing. The last two aren't going to be as ridiculous as the first two in premise.
You sure
they
about
have
that?
other things. I'm sure about that. But the next one we get to is so good. I wished when I made these I would have flipped them, but this was okay. It's called Lip Service. And the kind of heading for this one says, I heard his words of love I heard his loves. I'll just try it again.
Yeah.
I heard his words of love only through a dummy. I yearned for the day he could speak for himself rather than use the dummy's lip service. And what we have here is a story about a ventriloquist, folks. And we're met with, I think, is it Harry? I'm trying to find his name. Harvey. It is Harry. Okay. Our main character is Harvey, our ventriloquist, and his dummy's name is Charlie.
Okay.
And we see a set to open up the first panel of Charlie, the dummy, and Harry, the ventriloquist. And Harry says, Charlie, say it's a pleasure to meet the young lady. And Charlie goes, it's nice to know you, miss. How's that? Like, he kind of talks him up a bit.
Why does Harry look like he hates Charlie in the first panel? Like he just looks like he detests this thing.
This story is so weird, Mike. Just wait.
All right.
And he's like, no, he's basically just doing the whole act. Now, tell the lady that she's lovely. And it just kind of shows the top panel is just them kind of going through their act. But underneath, after it tells that bit about lip service, it shows Charlie off leaning against the bed. And he says, I love you, Linda, truly, by himself. And Charlie is sitting away from him, talking to himself. That's good, Charlie. Very good. But why can't I say it to her?
Why does he have a picture of this chick named Linda and it says "Love Linda" in the bottom of it if he can't say it? I mean, shit, she's already given you the opening.
She can say it. Charlie can say it.
Okay.
Harry can't. So we're introduced, and
Poor
it tells the
Harry
story of we go through this whole bit. The story's told by Linda, and Linda's telling us how she first saw Harry Devon on the West River Showboat. So
West River Showboat.
Oh, this one doesn't have it. Dang it, I missed it. I can't remember what issue this one's from. We're still in the 60s though. But he's doing his bit, and he's like, Charlie, I'm surprised at you. I've asked you not to flirt with the girls, and Charlie the dummy is a player, and the ventriloquist is not. It's kind of the gimmick here. Yeah.
So Zach told me a story. He came through the lobby yesterday, and dude looked at him. Number one, it's the guy who wears one of those male jumpers.
I don't know.
It's always like the same pattern on his shorts and his shirt.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
I like the unison.
You go right ahead. And then the guy looks at him and goes, "What's up, pimp?"
Yeah, he said, "What's up, pimp?" And I hadn't been asked that in like 12 years.
Yeah, sure. At least.
So I don't know why my ADHD or just my introvertness or just my unable to deal with people in the morning kind of kicked in, and I just went and just kept walking because I didn't know what to do.
Hey, another point we need to make before you continue is that Charlie, the ventriloquist dummy, now has a straw hat on.
Well, that adds personality.
Yeah. It's like anybody who's old enough to remember Shakey's Pizza. they used to come out in straw hats and suspenders and bow ties and
Did they
stuff and
sing?
play the banjo while you're eating pizza.
Is that what that's from?
Nothing makes a great slice of pizza go down.
Was it like red and
better.
white
Yeah,
shirts? I
yeah.
feel like I've seen pictures of these people and didn't know.
Nothing makes a good
was a
slice of
pizza
pizza go down better than banjo music.
Oh yeah, I want to feel like I'm in the deliverance or in
Yeah,
deliverance.
yeah,
I'm eating
yeah,
pizza.
yeah. Like,
But
this pizza sure is good, but I hate what comes later. Yeah.
Ooh-wee. So, Charlie is like kind of hitting on the ladies because Harry asked him, like, I asked you not to flirt with the girls, and Charlie goes, I wasn't flirting with her, bub. He always says bub too.
Bub?
He goes, I wasn't flirting with her, bub. I just asked her for a kiss. Like he's just like the smooth kind of like the dummy with that silent like sexiness about him. You know what I mean?
Can I do his voice real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
What's wrong with that?
He does seem like the way it's written. It does seem
Don't
like
you ask plenty of girls for a kiss? So I'm just a chip off the old block, bub.
And I feel like Harry's like, yeah, no, you're right.
Be quiet, Charlie.
It's just completely different.
It's my voice. It's always been embarrassing.
Man.
Hey, that's not copyrighted anymore, so we're good.
Yeah. No, yeah, that was specifically the
That was
Steamboat
specifically
Willie
Steamboat
version.
Willie.
I feel like I need to say, yeah.
Oh, the steamboat
Actually,
sure is
I don't think he
steamy.
laughs. We should probably.
All right.
Good luck finding that.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to listen to a lot of the episode
You
to
got
find
it.
that, Disney.
You got it,
We
Disney.
won.
Get on it, Disney.
Anyway,
Dare you.
so
Take that out.
this will be the one we get.
Yeah.
Actually, no, we got a. Well, never mind. That's something different.
I just wanted to cease and desist.
We didn't get a
That's all
cease
I'm
and
saying.
desist.
I
We
just
just
want
gotta.
one.
You can't monetize, which is fine because that means
who
though that
cares?
but
Whatever. YouTube.
yeah.
Stupid YouTube.
Anyway, now back to our show. Boop. As he's continuing this thing, he starts to hit on Linda, who is the girl in polka dots, because
Mhm.
Charlie starts talking up. He's like, all right, let's talk about this pretty dresses. How do you feel about the polka dot job?
Mhm.
And she's just kind of blushing, and Harry kind of covers his mouth, and he's like, oh, that's enough. Good night, folks. Like, his bit is, I guess, that Charlie the dummy just like talks up the ladies, and
He's a
Harry's
little
like,
bit of a
oh, that's
womanizer.
not,
He's like,
that's not cool.
how do you like that polka dot job?
Yeah. So
Charlie.
Harry, without Charlie, Harry the man by himself, Harry the man, is out on the boat, and he runs into Linda, and they kind of, get to talk a little bit, and they introduce each other, and she tells him that, I'm Linda Holly, and I thought your act tonight was great, and
Linda Holly.
you delivered your lines so well, and it seemed so real when you made that dummy talk, which I can only think reading that line that she was just like, I know it's not real, but you make me believe. You make me believe, Harry. Like, just something like that.
Harry, you make me believe in magic.
Dummy match.
In dummy magic.
But he goes, Charlie is well trained, even though he gets a little brazen at times.
Well trained.
Yeah, no,
It's you.
that's what I'm telling you. Because she goes, your job must be very interesting, Mr. Devon. Just look at all the things you can say and blame them on a dummy. And he's like, well, yeah, I guess I never really thought of it exactly like that. I try to make people laugh. And then she goes,
He's so sad for somebody
She
who's trying to
is.
make people
Yes.
laugh.
She's like, my shot in the dark had hit home. I knew Harry Devon's secret. Without his dummy to speak for him, he was like an embarrassed little boy. So she's like, he's using the dummy. And it would make sense.
I can fix him.
Well,
That's what she
yeah, they like to write that a lot too.
Yeah.
So she says that she wants, he goes, I'm sorry. So Harry goes, you can just call me Harry, like Mister's, just too formal.
Yeah.
That's my name and stuff. She's like, all right, on one condition, you show me what makes Charlie tick, which could be taken one of two ways. Maybe she's like, yeah, I'll call you that if you show me what makes Charlie tick. And she's like, coming on to him a bit.
Yeah.
Or she really wants to see the dummy. What do you think? She really wants to see the dummy.
I think later she's going to say, stick your hand in me like you do that dummy. I think is where that's going.
Oh, I was going to make a joke, but I'm not going to.
Sorry.
Nope.
Mine was
So,
bad enough. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
we'll leave it there.
Sorry, folks. Sorry. Come back, please.
But so while they're there and
More
they're talking,
Bosco.
he pulls, Harry pulls Charlie back out, and Charlie immediately is like, wow, it's the polka dot job. Like, he goes right back into that whole bit.
No, he doesn't say wow. He says wow.
Oh, he does say wow.
Wowee.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The E part, IE part
Is in bold.
Yeah, in bold.
And Harry's like, Charlie, I warned you to be nice. And he's like, oh, I could be nice. Real nice to her. Like, he's
See?
like, yeah. And she's like,
it?
yeah. And he's like, oh, pay no attention to Charlie. And Linda's just playing it up. And she's like, oh, no, I'm enjoying this. Like, she likes, I guess, him being kind of a little riled up bit, which makes sense. And, this is so weird. It says, say you'd like to kiss the lady, Charlie. And it goes, Linda, I'd like to kiss you. Oh, man. And then all of a sudden he did.
With that damn doll sitting back
And
there watching.
And he lays the doll down on the chair. And yeah, it's watching the background. And then it says, then I heard more words, wonderful words. But they didn't come from Harry Devon. And you see, you were all I want, all I ever wanted.
All I ever wanted.
But the speech bubble is coming from the puppet and not from Harry.
Well, number one, he is a very talented ventriloquist.
He's throwing his voice all across, completely across the room.
What a guy.
He's too afraid to say what he wants to her that he'll instead throw his voice.
He's already kissed her.
Just don't say anything.
It's
like
just
that's
so
the thing. I don't
goofy.
like if he's that nervous, I get him like just clamming up and not saying anything. But being so nervous that you throw your voice to make a dummy clear across the room talk is a bit.
I have a continuity issue.
Yeah, what's up?
And the next thing, he's had this orange suit on the whole time, and then the next panel, it's yellow.
Oh, it is
all of
yellow
a sudden,
for
like
just one
Dick
panel.
Tracy.
For
Yeah.
one panel.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a color with our problem with the printing press. And she's like, that's not you talking, Harry. Or is it?
You can't fool me.
Still, she goes, or is it? Like, she's kind of confused. And she's like, I'm not talking to a dummy. Forget this. I'm done. And so, like, she leaves. And he gets sad. Well, the next day,
He gets sad.
he decides to call her back. And he's like, hey, I'm doing a show at the Aquacade and didn't know if you wanted to come hang out at the beach and all that. And she's like, with Harry or the dummy? Like, she's kind of like, I'm not doing this BS.
I know, this is a dummy.
Yeah, yeah. She's
I
like,
float.
It was weird enough. It was weird enough the first time. We are not doing this again.
Yeah.
But he's like, it's with me. She's like, all right, I'll come hang out. So they're over at the beach and they're talking, and you see a suitcase that's sitting away from them, and all of a sudden,
God
a speech
almighty.
bubble from the suitcase
This
says,
guy.
"I love you, honey, darling. I mean every word." He's still
He's still talking as the dummy, and the dummy's in the suitcase.
in the suitcase. Here's what I want to know though. He doesn't have a show till that night.
Yeah.
Why did he bring the dummy to the beach with him, even
Well,
if it's
'cause
still in the suitcase?
Charlie loves the sun.
But he's in the suitcase.
It's UV rays. They get through it.
All right.
I don't know.
So
Because he's an idiot is what
That's
that's
true.
the real answer here.
So Linda's had enough, and she's like, "The dummy spoke those words again, Harry, not you. Even when he's in the suitcase, he does all the talking."
It's true.
And she's
Yeah, now see, she does have something to kind of be pissed off.
no,
about,
on this one,
honestly. Yeah.
she's in the right on
This
all
is
this.
not, oh shit, I woke up, you have stubble, I hate you.
No, Linda's in the right on all of this. This is Harry being weird.
Mm-hmm.
And
this dude's
and he's like,
freaking
"But
weird."
and she's like, "Please, not another word. I dislike lip service from a wooden dummy. When you learn to speak for yourself, let me know. Goodbye, Harry." Like a very good, just boom. But Linda couldn't leave. She still obviously like cared for Harry a bit. So she goes out to watch his show that night, and it is awful, right? He's out there on stage, and it just shows her sitting around the crowd, and the crowd is like, "Ha, some act."
I got choked up because of what they do to him.
Yeah.
It's rough.
It is, and so the crowd is heckling him, and they're like, "Ha, some act." Every time the dummy talks, you see Devin's lips move. He's a rank amateur. Like people are yelling out there, and they're booing him
They
now.
literally boo him out loud.
They boo him.
Boo!
And they're like, "Throw him out. Bring on the next act," because he's just
my
so
gosh.
horrible. And Linda's like, "Something's wrong," and she hurries backstage.
This is not the ventriloquist I paid for.
Oh man, I like to think that it's an open mic night, so none of them
Yeah,
did.
exactly.
But she goes backstage to see Harry, and Harry goes, "So after you left me, I decided to learn to talk for myself. I did learn, only too well, and now I can't make Charlie talk." So he's learned to express himself so well, he can no longer be a good ventriloquist.
Somebody needs to check this guy for a brain tumor. This poor guy. He's like, I can talk to you now, Linda. Can't talk to my dummy anymore. Dude, come on.
Maybe he only has room for one person. Maybe that's what it is.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
But he goes, I love you, Linda. I love you, Linda. I love you.
Number
He's
one.
saying it himself.
Fast as hell.
That is true.
Yeah. I mean, just like you've literally hung out with her twice.
That's true. And
I love you. I love you. I love you.
And you talked to her through your dummy for half that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Linda
How
says,
is she not afraid of this guy?
Well, she goes, and it's you, darling. All right, you talking,
Darling.
darling. How nicely. You talk. How wonderfully. And then he goes back out on stage with Charlie, and she proudly watches his act. And he goes, Charlie, say it's a pleasure to meet the young lady. Like, this is them, I guess,
Yeah.
before he goes back out. And he's like, nice to meet you, miss. Now, Charlie, say you think the lady is very, very lovely. Of course I think she's very lovely. And he looks back, still sad looking for some reason. And he goes, now it's important, Charlie. Tell the lady you love her. And he goes, I love you, Linda. I love you. And then we get a close out of her face. And I knew the words were for me.
Yeah, because your damn name's in the sentence. That's why. That's why you knew.
And I knew.
You're an idiot, Linda. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
cut her some slack.
Linda's
She's
an idiot.
No,
No.
no, cut her some
No.
slack. She dealt with Harry. Look at that. But still, she goes, and I knew Harry could say them too. We had found our own lip service.
Good
The
Lord
end.
Christ in heaven. Good
Oh
God.
man. Well, that's a perfect place for us to take a break, though. We'll come back, and I got two more. One of them involving, I'll just tease it for you, of how I tortured my in-laws. Is
Nice.
the next one. We'll get to that coming up right after this break.
Enjoy these lovely commercials.
All right, welcome back into Bros, Foes, and Heroes. After that lovely break we got to hear that was so eloquently thrown to by Charlie the dummy.
Hey there, everybody.
There we go.
Welcome back.
There we go. I just need.
I'm not a womanizer anymore.
I've reformed.
I've taken up ships in a bottle.
Isn't that oddly weird being a wooden dummy? You know what? We're not going to get into that.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get into our last two stories. Then the first one being from April of 1950.
Wow.
Right?
1950.
Yeah, from My Pass number 11, and it says the artist possibly early Pete Morisi. It's from Fox Publishers.
All right.
But it's called I Tortured My In-Laws.
Sounds like a fun game.
What we have here is, I'm trying to see our main character's name. Her husband's name is Ray. Betty. Betty is our main character. And Betty talks about how she likes her home so much, too much to share it with her in-laws that were ailing, right?
Yeah.
The doctor had suggested to her husband that they keep them there, and she's just keep them there to live with them. And I didn't care how sick they were. While they lived in my apartment, I made their lives so miserable they were forced to leave. To face life or death alone, I didn't care how much I hurt my husband.
Wow.
Yeah. Right? So that's why I read that first part, and I was like, oh, yeah, we're doing this one.
Yikes.
So we're introduced to Betty and Ray, who have been married for 3 years at this point, right? And life is just absolutely perfect. We kind of get a little setup for them of how they have their own garden that they work. And Ray tells her, like, we're lucky to have a garden, Betty. Like, a lot of big city dwellers like us don't even have a backyard. And she's like, oh, I know, Ray. It's wonderful.
I know, Ray, darling. Darling.
She talks about how their lives together are so great that even when they're reading, they don't need to talk. Like, just being in each other's company and life's just so awesome. My husband and I found marriage bliss. We enjoyed staying home alone. Honeymoon Bridge was our favorite indoor game. I wonder what their favorite outdoor game was.
What's a honeymoon bridge?
Bridge, the
Well, I
card
know
game.
it's bridge, but
I don't know what makes a honeymoon bridge.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if it's a type of game.
Take
or
your pants off. Let's
they-
play honeymoon bridge.
Where the hell Charlie come from?
I don't know.
He's just gonna be hanging around.
Yeah.
But no, I just love that our favorite indoor game though too. Like, what was their favorite outdoor game?
Jarts.
I was gonna say yard
Mostly,
darts.
Yeah.
What are jarts?
Jarts or lawn darts?
Why is it jarts?
It was a
though?
brand.
Oh.
Yeah, it was just called Jarts.
How do you think that's how they lost a best friend? Probably took one of them.
Well, I think once one of them hits you in the head, then you can't pronounce words correctly anymore. 'Cause you're just like Jarts. I get hit by jarts because it's sticking into your frontal cortex.
Oh man. All right. So they're playing.
That was terrible. I'm sorry.
That one. I don't have anything
Jarts.
for that. I don't.
We gotta get him to the hospital, Bob. Jarts.
Oh man. Okay. So they play Honeymoon Bridge and maybe yard darts for outdoor stuff. But it says, I didn't want his mother and father to spoil my life, so I tortured his in-laws. And when she says it like that, it makes it sound like she locks him up in the basement.
But then,
But it's not that bad.
The next panel is so odd. It's a little skinny little panel,
And it says, we both like the same kind of recreation.
and then it's got two hearts with an arrow through it. So you gotta think they're talking about the horizontal lambada or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
I think so, right?
Okay, all right.
I didn't pick up on that, but you
if
think
I'd-
that's like a little
Yeah, that's what I'm
1950s
saying.
koi?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think that this was before there were other positions besides missionary, and so
So that
most
was a-
sexual positions were invented after 1965.
it was. So
yeah.
they thought about Bob. We got to recreate that. I think it's going to be less obvious if we do an arrow going through two hearts.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
enjoyed your idea of the sheet ghost with the hole cut out
Right.
in
I
it.
also like
but-
the train and the fireworks, but those are hard to pull off in a comic book.
I hate that you missed my.
I heard you
okay.
sheet with a hole in it.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
Hasidic Jew. Yeah. Or Mormons. I don't know which ones have sex through a sheet,
I
but
think
one
it was
of
just.
them does.
It was all. I think it was just super religious people in general.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because I heard it from about the.
How
the
often
story
you
from
got to wash
Catholic
that damn
people.
sheet? Is what I'm saying.
It's
Like it ain't coming out clean.
it's your sex sheet.
It's sex sheet.
Oh.
Gross, and 2 times.
You know what? For
gross.
Valentine's Day, get your loved one a new sex
New
sheet.
sex sheet.
So, man,
That's what I like to do. I like to turn over my sex sheet like once a year. When February hits, I just go buy a new one,
Yeah,
and then
the last for the year.
Yeah, well, and then in March I wash it, so it's good.
So you're ready for May.
That's right. May is for lovers and bears.
Oh man, this is the beauty of these though, because they always get
Yeah.
off the rails too. All right, so back from after we found the little 1950s, I guess their little wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
They're at the movies, and she's like, "I hope the movie's good, Ray." And he's like, "Well, everybody else gave it rave reviews."
By the way, the movie is Rajori Nissan and Odger Guest in So Goes Life.
So Goes Life was a classic.
So Goes Life.
It shows them like going to the museum together and
Yeah.
talks about how they would go swimming and have picnics together, and that Ray's kisses were divine, and he never failed to thrill me. And there's so many like the panels behind it are like them going and swimming,
Sit in their underwear in the park
That's their
with a
picnics and
thermos.
swimming.
Yeah.
So like they're having just the best life ever, and Betty loves it. We get a lot of it. Like we just get panel after panel of all the great things that are happening in her life, and how it's just absolute, marriage bliss for these 3 years.
Sometimes I wish everyone was as happy as we are.
Stuff like that.
I do
right?
too. This will never end, though.
There are
We'll
some.
be happy forever.
There are some things in here though that again, like I just kind of like
Yeah.
chuckle about reading because it's
Sure.
like the guys. It feels like guys writing for the female characters, or if anything, it's like the sign of the times. There's like
This one right here.
So there's two. There's one where she goes, oddly enough, I liked housework. The
Mhm.
knowledge that I was cleaning my castle gave me inner satisfaction.
There's two things in this panel I want to point out.
And she's singing and
Yeah,
she's like
that's the
having
first one.
whistle while you dust da 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 while she's doing
I
that.
would then like to point out the picture of what look like men
Four.
in some 4 men in sombreros
I don't know what that
in a
is.
picture on the wall.
I just noticed that.
And
don't
they
know
all
what that
seem to
is.
be like in
Yeah,
action
they
poses.
are.
But they're anyway.
And
yeah,
then
it's just-
it says Ray appreciated everything I did around the house. He was a model husband. And then another one where I'm like, oh, it's just the very next panel. Betty's cooking, and Ray goes, "Looks like you're planning a scrumptious dinner tonight,
Scrumptious.
dear. I'm lucky to have such an excellent cook for a wife." And she goes, "Thank you, darling. I hope everything turns out." It's just like all very Stepford
Yeah,
wifey.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're having just fantastic marriage life until
Well, now she's mending and darning also. He thanks her for doing that.
oh, what is darning?
So I think
I get
darning.
mending.
I think darning. They talk about when you're sewing up socks. Darning a sock,
So that's
like
it's
socks
just-
get a
it's
hold, you just
specific
sew
to
them up.
socks.
Yeah, I believe so. I think that's right.
Interesting. So our story's going great, and then we get hit with a wall of text of a page. And this is when it started getting longer and more intricate. But there's so much dialogue that starts, as I've just pointed out to Mike. There's not a lot, and then boom, you get hit with it.
I'm sorry. Darning is sewing technique for repairing holes or worn areas in fabric or knitting using needle and thread alone. So there you go.
Okay, there you go. That's what darning is then. You learn something new every day.
It's often done by hand, but it's also possible to darn with a sewing machine.
Oh.
Who knew?
We do now.
We do.
So Ray tells Betty, like, hey, they're talking about their in-laws. Betty says, it was a pleasure to receive mail from my parents, but I was glad they lived 3,000 miles away and couldn't interfere with us. And Ray goes, here's a letter from your folks. Betty, it's too bad you can't visit them oftener. You haven't seen them for 3 years.
Is oftener a word?
It is right
Oftener.
now. Oftener. And she goes, I'd like to visit them, of course, Ray, but I think it's good that we don't get too much of them. I wouldn't want in-law trouble. To which Ray's like, Betty, dear, my folks live in nearby Trenton. They're not any trouble, are they? And she's like, oh, no, Ray. I didn't mean it that way. Your parents are too sickly to come here.
Thank God.
So it's nice to visit them once a month. I
Dumbass
enjoy
sick
every
parents.
minute of my stay with them, but only for that month. If I have, or for that one time. If I have to visit them more than that, it would be dreadfully awful, honey.
That's kind of the way I feel about my parents, but they're just across the city.
So here's what I was trying to figure out too. If they live in Trenton, I'm assuming New Jersey, nearby.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What is 3,000 miles away from New York? Where is Betty from?
Well, let's see. If we go 3,000.
Is that clear across the country, or is it further?
From Trenton and New Jersey? Right?
That's the only thing I can't figure out. Is I guess I don't know how far away.
Let's see. How far is New Jersey from the equator? Is the first one I get.
Oh, okay.
Used cars under 3,000 in Trenton, New Jersey.
Oh, okay, that's cool too. Maybe this was a terrible question to ask.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's according to which.
Do you think that that's far enough for them to be on the West Coast?
So here we go. This ridiculous question was asked by somebody. Is California close to New Jersey?
No.
So it says the total driving distance from New Jersey to California is 2,845 miles. So it's in California somewhere.
So okay, so
it's
she's
either
in
that
the
way
West.
or they're in Russia.
Okay, one of the two.
Yeah.
So she's probably out in the West Coast. I would feel like it would be closer the more northwest you went, but just maybe. So it's got to be like south, deep South California.
Her parents live on Alcatraz.
That's what it sounds
That's where
like.
they're at. Yeah.
So
Oh, they're sickly. That's where they used to put the sick people.
she's like, but that's where we put my sick parents.
they're
What are you
in
doing
the-
with yours? Putting them in Trenton.
They're in that tuberculosis hospital.
But Ray tells her, well, hey, Betty, I got a phone call from like the family doctor, and he says like my parents aren't doing good. Like they don't have a lot of time left. They're not doing well, and he thinks that it would be good for us to like move them in with us to kind of watch them and give them, kind of a hand, like another set of eyes and hands to kind of watch over them.
I'm starting to be on her side. And here's the thing, right?
Okay.
It's in 1950.
Yeah.
All we've done is talk about how she takes care of the house. She does all the cooking, does all the cleaning, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And now he's like, yeah, Doc says I need to bring my two parents in here who are old and sickly, and they're gonna germ up the place.
I get your point.
I get
there.
that part.
No, and I get that part, and I don't disagree with that part at all.
Yeah.
It's not even that I don't understand where she comes from of, having other people kind of impede on your life.
Sure.
It's the way they write her as just so callous and mean about it.
She does come across as like heartless.
Yeah, that is the entertaining part of this.
Sure.
It's not like you said, like I get your point and I get her point then too of all this, because in all honesty, when we're looking at this with Ray, like he is not listening to her at all with this when she presents her concerns.
That's true too. Yeah.
And he's like, no, this is what I want. This is what we're gonna do. So if we're honestly looking at this, to take the funniness away from it, like he's kind of being a shit husband by not listening to her in this at all. So she has a point, but she's just being heartless about it. So
I
it's
just
hilarious.
love how like 2 panels earlier she goes, "We're gonna be happy like this forever."
And then he's like, hold on.
Yeah, wait a minute.
My parents are
I
coming.
got something for you.
And so But the way he introduces, he's like, "Well, I'm glad that you like them, Betty, because they're gonna move in here."
Yeah.
But they're his poor parents.
Yeah.
You know, my mother and father both have heart ailments, so
Wait,
and
what?
he says
Oh,
that.
yeah, there he is. Yes, Ray. I'm awfully sorry for
Yeah, and he's like, "Well, I had a long distance phone call from our family physician, and he told me that both of my folks are in bad health and it's serious, and he suggests that I should bring them to here. He doesn't want them to live alone,
I
right?"
talked to a doctor who said, your parents are bad. You need to take them to your house.
And then she's like, "I'm stunned to look after them. Like, they'd be under my feet all day, and they clutter up the apartment, and like she has points
Well,
on all
the
this,
point I want to make here is she says, I was stunned. I'd be expected to look after them.
which is another
That's
great
the
point
part.
too,
That's the part right there.
because
where
she
I'm
would
thinking,
be because
yeah,
she's at home all day
yeah,
while he's
exactly.
at work.
That's true.
But she's like, your folks, they have their own house. Like, we don't want to persuade them to come up here. Like, they're probably
Yeah,
comfortable
that's
where
just
they
her
are.
trying to get out of it.
She's
is what
trying
that is,
to.
yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, well, they kept quiet. They didn't tell us about their health because they don't want to put us out. But
Plus,
they're
they're
not
both
going
mute,
to.
So, yeah.
But they're not going to. Like, we're going to go ahead and take care of them." And she just keeps like trying to come up with other reasons of like, "But yeah,
Yeah.
like, but all their stuff is there, and like, their possessions, and he won't have any of it." Like,
Every
he's
time
like,
they're
"We're
here,
gonna
I
move in."
scare them with my feet for some reason. I don't know why they're so scared of my feet.
So he calls and talks to her or his dad, and after he gets off the phone, like Betty asks him, like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's like, "Well, they're not gonna move in yet. They're gonna come for a short vacation, but they won't stay for good. And I accepted it because I feel like once they're here, we'll be able to persuade them to stay." And Betty's like, I don't necessarily like that. So she says, or she goes, they go to pick them up. They drove to Trenton to pick them up. And she says, on the way home, my secret plan was to make their stay unbearable. I had to be careful not to make them suspect I was doing it deliberately. And I had to be careful Ray didn't get wise.
Jeez.
Her thoughts are, my in-laws will want to be a help, or will want to help a little. If they have absolutely nothing to do, it will drag for them. They will think I'm not letting them help me because I don't want them to overtax their hearts. Her plan is, I'm not going to let them do anything to help me. That's not necessarily an evil plan.
No, it's not an evil plan. Mm-mm.
It's not like that's
No.
that's funny that they're trying to make her this be like some all her thing is, I'm just going to make sure that they want to help. I'm not going to give them anything to help me with. But she feels bad about this. It shows a kiss, and she's like, "But my kiss felt different with Ray because I was planning something evil against him." It's just very weird.
Well, I like how she's upset because her in-laws watched them kiss.
She did not like that.
She goes, I resented my in-laws
Resent
watching
was
us
kinda-
embrace. What?
She did kind of hate them. Then though, like,
And what is wrong with Ray's dad's face? What happened to his face?
He's part fish.
This poor guy. Good Lord.
Ray looks normal. His dad does look like he had one.
And
too
why
many-
is Satan in the next panel? You go on to the. So I resented my in-laws watching us embrace. Isn't that romantic, John? Young love is certainly nice.
That's his parents.
It's his parents talking, yeah. And then his dad looks at her and goes,
Hey, I hope that you two continue to be happy.
right? And then he looks like a burn victim. And then the next panel is Satan. And it says almost immediately after their arrival, I began my campaign to make Ray's parents feel unwanted. I knew they could do a small amount of work, but I wouldn't let them do any. I tried to make them feel like they were in the way. Satan!
And then so she's like, Ray's mom's like, "Hey, if you don't have anything planned for dinner, I could help." And she's like, "No, I got it. You just kind of sit down and do what you want to. It's
I got it. Your food sucks.
Hey, I got the dishes."
Yeah.
She's working on socks, and she's like, "Hey, I'm knitting these for Ray, Betty. It's been so long since I made him socks." And Betty goes, "Yeah, that's very sweet, but he prefers store socks."
You ever had anybody make you socks?
No.
I haven't either. I've had a lot of clothes made for me because my grandmother was a seamstress, right? She worked out at like the Methodist home.
Yeah.
And she would fix all the kids' clothes and stuff. But that also meant she thought she could make me shirts and pants and stuff, right? And so it was always like this pattern shit, like, oh, this has cowboys all over it. Let's make you a shirt out of that because I know you love them cowboys.
My grandma made me
Shit
a
like
T-shirt
that.
with like that puff. I think we've
Made you
talked
a
about this
T-shirt?
before. Yeah, with like the puffy kind of paint.
Oh, yeah.
Like you did it with
No.
and it was
Mm-mm.
neon colored.
No.
And it was
No.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
It was a big bear.
No.
It said Bosco loves you.
It was. It was from another comic we've covered. Oddly enough.
Oh.
Well, not like directly, but a comic about this person. It said, "Don't break my heart, my achy, breaky heart," and it had a broken heart.
Oh my Lord! Wow. Was she worried about your heart being broken?
I just really loved that song as a 6-year-old to the point where she thought she'd make me a
Wow.
T-shirt.
Well,
of it.
hey, she was trying. You know.
Yeah, no. My
trying.
grandmother she also made me for my 8th birthday, and I do still have this with the tape over it.
Yeah.
It's the number 8 in 50-cent pieces,
Oh.
but it says happy, and she used that as the 8th birthday. And she drew all these different. She was always very artsy.
Yeah.
But she drew like Mario and Sonic.
Oh, look at
and
her.
like all different
Oh,
like video
yeah.
game
She knew
characters
you
on
liked-
like a thing of poster board.
She knew you liked the video games.
She did, and just like all and cartoon characters and stuff like that. And I have that still like taped and
Yeah.
like off somewhere because that was cool. But I just thought
That
of
is
the puppet
cool.
paint thing.
Good for her.
But so then she's like, yeah, no, Ray likes store socks now, not these
Likes store
not
socks.
these stupid homemade socks.
Stupid.
She
homemade
goes,
socks.
if they're your husband's size, maybe you could give them to him, is what she tells him. Ray's dad's like, hey, I could fix this switch on the plug on the lamp. She's like, nope, you sit down. Don't you dare touch it. I'll have Ray deal with it when he gets home. Like, she doesn't want them to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're even like sitting in their chairs reading the paper, and she's like cleaning up after them on purpose to make them feel like they're being a mess. Like, she goes like, he wasn't being one, but I like scooped all of his papers up to like hurriedly move them. She's making them like lift their legs so she can clean underneath it, even though the spot's
Yeah.
already clean.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah,
having
she's a
just a
turd.
blast with this.
She's a turd.
When then all of a sudden, one day, Ray gets home and he goes, hello, honey. I put in a hard day's work and I feel the need of some affection.
Yeah. I'm gonna use that line.
Oh, I do love that.
Hey, honey, I just got home and I really feel the need for some affection.
And she goes in to kiss him, but I don't know, something's off with her kiss. And he's like,
Something's off with his dad's head. I'm just saying it. It looks like a freaking potato. His head is so weird
you're
looking.
so mean to his dad.
Well, his dad's weird looking.
But he's like,
Even Betty, look at that face.
yeah, I don't
Looks
know.
like she just swallowed a fish.
Hole.
Fish hole.
But then he's like, where are my parents at? My mother and dad, Betty. They never come to greet me anymore. And she's like, oh, they're in their rooms, Ray. I guess they know their days are numbered.
Oh, Jesus. Wow.
They seem to want to be alone. I'll get them. I'll let them know that dinner is ready. And she just like goes and knocks on the door. And they're like, come and get it, folks.
Come and get it, you old bastard.
And they run to meet him and they hug him like they haven't seen him in years.
Again, look at his dad's face when he hugs him. His dad has an issue, man.
No, it's not.
Look at Betty's face. Good Lord. She just ate a lemon.
Hole.
Hole. She ate a lemon hole.
Oh, man. So, anyway, they tell them that they're going to go back. They've decided that the vacation was enough. They're bored here. They don't have anything to do.
Yeah.
And that they really want to go back and stay. And he's like, but I want y'all to stay here. And they're like, no, we don't want you. We don't want to. Like, we want you guys to be able to have your space. And he's like, well, then we'll come down once a week instead of once a month. Like, we'll need to take care of you. And she's like, our Betty's thinking to herself, I can do with once a week. That's fine. I'll still have the house to myself.
Sure.
Well, after they leave, Betty starts to feel lonely and the house feels empty without her parents there. So she wakes up and decides that if either of them have a sudden heart attack and dies, Ray and I might not get to Trenton in time.
Oh,
Well, yeah,
no.
no, because you said it was sudden. Like, that's the thing. Is
That's
she
it.
said in her statement, if they have a sudden heart attack and die, we wouldn't get to Trenton in time. Well, yeah, because you've already killed them even in your thought.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah,
but
that's not great.
she's like, oh, if something goes wrong, like we're not going to be there, they should come live with us after all, so we can be under our watchful eye. And she calls her mother-in-law and basically tells her everything like, hey, I made sure that you guys had nothing to do so you get bored not to live here. And her mother's like, first of all, she's like, can you forgive me now that you know the truth, mother? She calls her mother, which is going to fix it all because Ray's mom's like, oh, she called me mom. That's cool. And they decide to move in and everything's hunky-dory. And Betty only calls her mom mother now, which is kind of weird and creepy, but she's there.
Whoa!
I threw my tablet in frustration.
I was pissed
and
off at my
accident.
pen earlier. Now you're pissed off at your
Yeah,
tablet.
but Betty's like, I want your parents to live with us. And they move in, and it's a giant happy family. And so that's the end of that one.
Even with her dad's weird potato head.
You were so mean to her dad.
Her dad is a weird looking dude.
And then we have the last one here from 1958, romantic story number 38.
Hey, but
We've
below
already-
that,
we've already
yeah,
read
that's what I
that
was going
one.
to say. Yeah, at the bottom, it's got an ad for I joined a teenage sex club.
Yeah, and it says join the romance comic group on Facebook, which is the IDW group for this. But we covered the I Joined a Teenage Sex Club in one of the previous romantic ones.
We did.
Oh, man, that was a funny one, too.
It was a good one.
So we close out today with our last one again from romantic story number 38 from January 1958 from Charlton Comics. The story is called I, the House.
I, the house.
I, the House.
All right.
I haven't been lived, sorry. I haven't been lived in for 10
I
years.
thought we were really getting down to
We
the
are,
crux of things that are wrong with us.
I
I
know.
haven't been loved in
In
years.
I haven't been lived in for 10 years.
Well, same
But I
thing.
still remember the happy voices, the bustle and excitement of a loving family, and I miss them so. Shall I ever know such joy again? Now there's a lovely girl. She's looking at me. I wonder. That whole thing was from a house. That's right. Our main character in this story is a house. I say that. All the house does is it's kind of the main
Well, you're kind of
focus
bookending
point.
this, though, right? I mean, you started with a bear. Now you're ending with a
The
house.
house.
So it's like these things that don't normally talk or telling the
Exactly.
story here. Yeah.
So we are introduced to our young
What a
lady.
dumb name, I, the house. Come on. I, the house.
On Lifetime. Is Lifetime still a thing?
Lifetime is still a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this woman loves the house.
She does.
But her husband,
She
Jerry,
wants to kiss it.
but her husband, or I'm sorry, not her husband, her boyfriend, Jerry, or
Jerry.
fiance, does not. Because this house is very run down and it does not look good at all. It has seen better days. It's a fixer-upper. Audrey is our main character's name. Well, Jerry's like, Audrey, I said, yeah, I have a house for us to look at. Let's go look at this one instead. And it's a substantial modern home, and it's easy to maintain, and it's
Substantial
new.
modern.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
It's a house.
Hey, can I tell you
Substantial,
something about
modern.
the name Jerry real quick?
You've had brushes with him?
No, it's not that. I was talking to some people yesterday, and they said that they wanted to start a podcast called Unmoanable. And I was like, what?
Was
You
it
know,
names you can't?
Yeah. So names that sound that you can't really moan.
That's funny.
So the guy's name was Larry, and somebody said, you can't really say, oh, Larry.
Yeah.
You know, and so I thought
Airy.
when I saw Jerry, I thought, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not all the
Oh, Jerry. That kind of thing, you know.
Every time I hear Jerry now, I think of Rick and Morty, though. So
See,
that's how I
I
am.
still think Seinfeld. for some
See,
reason,
no,
yeah.
I always
Yeah.
think of, the
Yeah.
dad.
Yeah, sure.
But
All right, Audrey, what are you doing? What are you doing to us? here
so
with
we
this
go
fucking
to look at the modern house, and
Yeah.
she just doesn't like it because she doesn't think that it has any charm really or anything. And she wants the old rundown house because of all the things it could be. And Jerry's looking at it like, there's a hole in the kitchen. She's like, yeah, but we could fix it up. It's a giant kitchen.
Jerry,
He's
that's
like,
a sink.
water comes out of this thing when I
There's
flip
water
this
coming
way."
out of the wall. No, Jerry, that's a
that's a
spigot. We got to get you some workbooks or something.
Modern fancy house not have.
Modern fancy house not have
Oh,
water.
man. So Jerry's just like, whatever, honey. Here's the money. Go pick the house you
Jesus. Here, honey. Here's a bunch of money. Go buy a house.
want. And so she takes the money
Ugh.
and she tells the real estate agent that they're dealing with, like, I want to put a deposit down on this house here, this old rundown one. I guess another thing I should say is that the house does have comments throughout the whole thing that I haven't said.
Yeah.
Like after they went and looked at the modern house, they came back to the old one and it says, "Oh, she's come back. She does like me, but the man she's with is cold." Like,
My basement is swelling.
oh, there is. And so they're talking about it, and that's where she's like, "It's perfect, a large, beautiful kitchen." And he's like, "Oh, the ceilings have cracks, all that." And the house says, well, I'm glad he's leaving. He makes me nervous. So the dude makes the house nervous, first of all. And then she also says, what a pleasant visit. And yes, it looks as if I shall be occupied again. So the house is happy.
So at one point, Jerry says this phrase. She says, the girl says, but Jerry, I love this house. Haven't you said its choice should be mine since I'd be in the house all day? And he turns to this woman that he apparently loves.
Hold on. Wait, hold on.
Am I skipping forward?
Before you get to that
I'm
part,
sorry. Go ahead.
let me just say one thing.
Yeah.
So she puts down the deposit on the old house.
Yes.
And as the real estate agent is leaving, he tells her, I have a sentimental attachment to this old house. I'm glad that, I want somebody to live here to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, we will be. And then Jerry gets back and asks Audrey, all right, so did you pick a house? And that's where Audrey goes, yeah, I put a deposit down on that. And then go ahead with what you said of where she said.
Well, the next panel, number one, the house says, I'd like to flap my cellar doors at him.
Yeah,
I don't
wanted
know
to
what
add
that
that
means,
in for you.
but I'm going to start using that. And then she says, but Jerry, I love this house. You said it should be my choice, blah, blah, blah. He goes, yes, but to buy that old barn would be rattle-brained. Rattle-brained.
Yeah.
Go back and get that agent and get the deposit back.
What?
He's a turd.
They all are. That's the thing is in these.
Well, somebody in one of these things is always an asshole.
That's true.
Yeah.
There's never anybody that's not.
Mm-mm.
I went back and I listened to the rerun we ran last week, and it was the one where the dude dressed up as the clown. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And she was so upset. She worked at a circus.
Yeah.
And was upset that he dressed like a clown.
Yeah.
But when he wasn't dressed like a clown, she loved him.
I'm way more attracted to fire eaters.
The lion tamer might be missing a hand, but he would never dress up as a clown.
He really lost his head over me.
Wah. So she goes back to the real estate agent, and she's like, and the real estate agent's like, I'm sorry that you're having to take it back, but I get it. And she's like, I thank you, Mr. Keller. I appreciate it. And she goes back to tell her Jerry that she got the check back. And he goes, there, you did the sensible thing. Now, how would you like to put that deposit on the split level I showed you yesterday? It's like, oh, he's just such a tool.
And she says, I would not. I told you how I feel. Why do you insist on forcing something down my throat, Jerry? So time is a cruel mistress, man.
It is.
Because we're in a time where that is a different kind of sentence.
Yes, it is. Back at this time, it was a more innocent phrase, I would say. And at the same time, though, like,
I know.
maybe F Jerry if that's the case.
Well, the last one had a devil face on it, so
he goes, consider my position, Audrey. I must have a house with the sheet. I must have a house that reflects my success. Now, Audrey, think it over. It's that house or it's nothing, Audrey.
Fucking split level house. It's like a 1960s split level.
58.
And he's like,
we haven't even got to the 60s.
no, this has to reflect my importance as a man.
Exactly.
Fuck off.
I have thought it over, and it's nothing. I want a home that reflects the heart, not a showcase for other people to add up how much they spent. Goodbye, Jerry.
Oh, man.
And so she leaves, but she can't stay away from the house that she loves. So she goes back to see it with Mr. Keller, the real estate agent, because he had told her before when she left, like, anytime you want to come see it, you're welcome to. So she goes, I keep knocking that. So she goes to look at the house, and he kind of gives her the tour and is like, hey, this house, actually, I told you it was special. It's because I grew up here, and I've spent the time now to kind of like redo it all. And he's showing her like the fireplace is working now and the garden out back. And while he's showing her the garden, she trips over a hose, and he catches her in his arms. And the house says, that's more like it. Now we're getting some action. So the house kind of reminds me, you talked about the movie Rubber the other day.
Yeah.
You remember the hotel scene?
Love it.
The house is being that, like watching from the window now, like, oh yeah, now we're getting some action. Just kind of oddly. Yeah. But, the Mr. Keller, the real estate agent, catches Audrey. And she goes, oh, I'm so clumsy. And he goes, clumsy, no, please. Stay this way for just a little while, Audrey. I have something to tell you. And that's when he tells her that the house was his. And he wanted somebody to be happy there. A family to be happy. Somebody that he thinks that he could be happy with a woman like her. And they kiss.
A woman like her.
And the house says, I shall be lived in again, which is a weird sentence to say. I shall hear the happy voices of a happy family again. The end. The house is super excited. So yeah,
this one like lost steam at the end.
they did.
You ever seen the movie House?
I've seen
Like
the TV show.
the
House.
horror movie.
No.
Well, it's kind of a comedy horror movie.
No.
You should watch that. It's very good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Probably
it's,
better than that.
well, it is better than this, but it also is a house that's kind of alive kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And so it kind of reminds me of that, although there wasn't a Stepford wife living in it. So,
That's true. And also, though, this was
I like the bear the best.
the
of
bear was
any
my
of these.
favorite.
Yeah,
The dummy was great,
Dummy was good.
and I just loved how mean Betty was. I
Betty
just
is
found
a
these were just very kind of weird and
Hearted shrew.
shrew.
Yeah.
Not a pickle puss though.
She's very pickle pushish.
That's kind of hard to say.
It is hard to say.
All right, there you
I
go.
stand
That
by the
was
way I said
that
it.
was our romance comics for
These are
Valentine's
always
Day.
great, man.
I
These are
enjoy
always
doing
good.
these
Yeah.
because they're just so ridiculous
Oh
and fun.
yeah.
Next week again, Beneath the Trees Where No One Sees, issue 3. So we have some horror to get into, and again, I read it
Have some what?
yesterday. Horror
Oh, thank
to
you.
get into, and I read it yesterday and absolutely loved it.
I'm no Jerry.
It's a really great series. If you haven't read it, to go ahead and pick it up. But we'll go ahead and cover. Spoiler alert: we're going to cover issue 3 next week.
That's great.
Kind of give you a week to go ahead and get caught
Yeah,
up
I'm
on
looking
there,
forward to
though.
that.
But Patrick Horvath doing a great job with that whole series.
Good job,
And
Patrick Horvath.
and it takes another great kind of turn on things because you ever like it, and I'll save it when we do it next
Yeah.
week because I don't want to ruin it, but it's really good. So that's what we got for you. Appreciate you always taking the time out to listen and being here for us. As always, make sure to check out the other great podcasts on the Rogue Media Network family of stations.
Rogue Media Network. .com. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No,
a little bit.
you're
I
fine.
interrupted.
I was
Yeah.
gonna, and I was like, I'll just let him do it. I'm gonna leave that pause in and everything. when I
Yeah,
do
you
this.
would.
So,
know
yes,
what that means.
but a great family of podcasts that we're all a part of. Go check them all out. As always, again, thank you for listening, and until next time, stay safe, everybody.
Golly God.
Pros and heroes. Gonna tell you about pros and heroes. Gonna tell you about.
This has been a Rogue Media Network